Welcome to Mindful School Marketing, your go-to podcast for personal and professional growth.
We're school marketers, business owners, and moms passionate about connecting other school professionals with tools and strategies for success.
We love solving problems, exploring new ideas, and thinking outside the box. Let's transform your school and life starting right now.
This episode is brought to you by Enquiry Tracker. Easily manage all your inquiries, tours, open houses, and applications with a system designed by K-12 education, marketing, and admissions professionals. Welcome to Mindful School Marketing. I'm Tara Clays.
And I'm Aubrey Bursch. Today, we're joined by Brendan Schneider. Brendan is the founder of SchneiderB Media, a digital marketing agency for schools, and the Markom Society, a membership group for Markom professionals. Welcome, Brendan. We're so glad you're here and back on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me back. This is super exciting.
Thanks for coming back. We're glad you're here. And you're here today to share the results and insights from a recent survey that you did. Aubrey and I saw this come across, I think, email and LinkedIn, and thought it would be really interesting to chat about it. So, but before we dive into the survey, can you chat a little bit about, give us an update, our audience an update on what you've been up to since you were last on the podcast? You're one of our first guests a couple of years ago. So we're so honored that you've come back. And I know some things have changed since then. So can you give us an update?
Yeah, thanks for saying that. We were talking before the show, and I can't believe it's been like 2 years. It seems like yesterday. And congratulations to you guys for keeping the podcast going this long after having a couple podcasts myself and having some fail. Good for you. It's hard. So congratulations to you guys. No, a lot has changed in 2 years. So really, what was it? July 1st of 2022. So July 1st of the beginning of school year, after 28 years of working in independent schools, I walked away. And big change for me. I decided to do SchneiderB full-time and do the Markom Society full-time. And it has been absolutely wonderful. I joked initially, and I might have talked to you guys about this, that I was 50% more excited than I had been in a long time, and probably in equal measure, 50% scared out of my mind. I'm not sure that those percentages have changed, but it's been super fun and super exciting. So thanks for allowing me to bring that up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I love the honesty, because a lot of people think, oh, you must be all excited and everything. Oh yeah, no, there's a fear part too.
Yeah. Oh, it's been great. Like we were talking before, it's been wonderful. There are a lot of things, I call them, that are figure outable, being, a small business owner now and doing that. But the core of it is I love the work, and I love working with schools. And now I get to work with a lot of schools, which has been fun, which has been really fun.
Oh, you're like that.
Yeah. I was going to say, you seem really organized, and you just have a wealth of experience and knowledge and content. So I'm sure you're a great resource for everyone who follows you. And then for people who you work with directly, it's great to see that you're putting all that to good use.
Thanks.
I know.
Yeah,
Plus, you're a key networker in the space. Brendan, I always come to you for questions. I'm like, who doesn't Brendan know? He knows everyone. So it's been fun to watch you with this endeavor and see success. So thank you. But we do want to ask you, because we had so much fun diving into the survey results that you did. But I mean, it's sad not sad, it's exciting. I mean, we're in this field, right? Like when you put together something so cool that I'm like, how did you even think to do this? But this survey was focused on Markom salaries. What a great topic. And I was curious, like, we were wondering, like, what were your goals in creating this survey, and where did this idea come from?
Yeah, like most good things with Markom professionals, it started with wine. And it happened, where did it start? It was this past summer. I was asked by Meg Colafella, who's the director of marketing communications, I think is her title, at Western Reserve Academy, which is my alma mater and where I worked for 12 years, to host a summer institute session for tabs in Boston. So we were in Boston. And one night, a bunch of us went out, Meg and I and a group of the participants went out to eat. This is where the wine came in. And I think this is the gold of conferences are those conversations, like what's really going on? What are you working on? And that's where people will let their hair down and talk about fears and worries. And it's really out of that conversation, like we were talking about salaries. And then I thought to myself, oh, wait, geez, I'm going out on my own. I'll be like school agnostic now. I can do this. So that was the impetus. And then the group was super supportive. And we thought of a couple questions, and I did kind of a first round and shared it with them, and then did second. And then here we are. It led to this. So that was the start.
What a cool history. That's a really neat backstory. What were the main takeaways from this survey? I looked it over and found it really interesting, and some things I had never really thought about before. And tell us a little bit too about sort of how many people participated and the demographics too.
Yeah. So this wasn't scientific in any way. So I want to say that first. Like, it was people on my email list, and then I pushed it out on social. So people out there, it was 230 respondents, which I was super pumped about, pre-K through 12 schools. And for me, there are a lot of cool things that came out of it, but the things that stuck out for me were, number one, not surprisingly, maybe, women rule. 80, and I'm talking to two women, so that's true. 80% of the respondents. Now, again, this isn't scientific, but 80% of that 230 in the Markom space are women. Wasn't surprising to me. Wasn't surprising at all. Another factor that was a little surprising, maybe not, that's just more unfortunate, is that it's not a very diverse group. So there aren't a lot of Markom professionals of color. So that's something that we'll have to address going forward. But that's something that stuck out. I was like, oh, that's not good. That didn't feel good. So we'll work on that. The other one that was positive, as I talk about being old, is it's not necessarily a young person's game. I know a lot of schools think that, oh, we'll give the social media or the email to the college kid, or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's a whole nother podcast, that conversation. But so if I look at my notes, 52% of the respondents were 45 to 65 plus. And then the other big group was 40 to 44 at 16%. So it would make sense to me, and I was actually relieved to see this, that people with experience are in these roles and doing this work, because it's such important work. You need to, have some, not only work experience and got your 10,000 hours, but also life experience and know how to navigate a school and the politics and stuff there. So that was another takeaway. This takeaway, I don't know if this was surprising to me or not, or where I thought, is that 54% of the Markom professionals report to the head of school. And then 10% would report to the director of marketing communications. So like, if the way I view that is, like, if you're a junior person, you're reporting to your appropriate Markom person. So I would view that. Okay. So that's 64%, which I don't know if I thought that was high or low. Like, I'm a proponent that the chief Markom person of school should report to the head of school. So I just think that number needs to get higher. There was still too many people reporting to that director of advancement or development, that fundraising role, or that director of admission and marketing, or a director of admission and enrollment. And I just think that if you're reporting to that role, that's where your focus is going to be, and it really needs to be broader. So I think that's something that we'll check over time. And then the other big takeaway, for me at least, and it's kind of an umbrella statement or belief, and I'm trying to back it up with data or not, but schools really just don't understand the Markom space. They don't understand the Markom roles in particular. So for me, the titles were all over the place, and like, schools don't understand Markom titles. That's a whole nother probably podcast, but like, here's one that stuck out to me. 61% of the people had the title of director, but 36% report no direct reports, and 24% have one direct report. So like, even if you think of that, 61% are directors and 36% don't have direct reports, like, again, you do the survey year one and you realize, oh, I wish I would have asked that. Like, if you're a director, do you have a direct report? So for me, it's like, schools just don't understand titles, and we could talk about that forever. And then the other piece for that is the range in salaries was just wild, like 20,000 to 150,000 plus. So I don't know, like most of the salaries were in the like that 60 to 65, I think, and 70 to 75, kind of where you would think, but then the range, the variability was huge. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I need to process that some more.
I really do hope you do the survey again.
Yeah, that's the hope, Aubrey. Like my hope is the 1 year snapshot is cool. I think it's cool, but like the power will be trends over years. So we'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, you covered such amazing, you know, I was just like the roles was interesting to me, the salary variation, the benefit variation. I mean, it was just a lot going on there, and a lot to process, but really good information. I don't think I've seen anything like that out there. So it was really intriguing to me. Now, I'm curious, like, do you have any actions that we as schools can take in this industry as a result of the findings? And how can people use this information in their job?
Yeah, it's such an important question. Thank you for asking that. Like the whole point of this for me, like for SchneiderB and Markom, and then for this survey is to elevate the Markom professional to school. So my hope is that someone takes this survey and then can benchmark where they are personally, and then potentially give this to their CFO or their HR director or their head of school or all three, and have a conversation with that person to say, like, I'm wildly underpaid, or maybe they don't share it because they're wildly overpaid. You know, I don't know, but like, I think it's, you know, what's the line? I'm going to butcher this. You know, in data we trust, or whatever. You know, all else is correct. Whatever it is, but like to give people data and not just have these anecdotes of what they think is going on. And it's really to, you know, like one of the things from the survey, like people were talking about just things getting dumped on their plate. Like that was in the free response stuff, but that doesn't necessarily show up in the results. Like that happens all the time. Like we don't know what to do, so give it to the Markom person. What does that mean? You know, and I just think people need to be compensated for that. So again, benchmark where you are, and hopefully, and in years going forward, I'll try to do it a little earlier so that you can get it after the first of the year when people are in contract time. That's the hope. That's the goal. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know there are trends, and at least in a lot of tech companies, for transparency and within organizations of
Yeah.
salaries. You know, a lot of companies are now publishing their salaries,
Yeah.
which I think is, you know, I think that creates a lot of trust and just comfort among people, because otherwise I think people are always suspicious that their coworkers are making something more than they are, or, you know, it just creates a lot of discomfort. So I wonder if that's, you know, what you're doing is, you know, is a step in that direction in a way, right? You're opening that up. It's not a mystery anymore what people should be earning when they're doing this type of work, and that there should be some parity there. Is, you know, I think it's a great idea to sort of start opening that door a little bit for people to see where they fit into that picture. So thank you for sharing, for doing this work. I know it was a lot of work to gather all this information and then to share it. And I guess taking that into the next question, which we always like to kind of wrap up our questions with a focus on mindfulness, because we like that concept, which is why it's in our title. And I know you've shared this with us when you were with us before, but, you know, in regards to kind of what I just talked about a little bit, applying mindfulness to processing this information that you're sharing with everyone, you know, what would you say, how would this survey help? Or how would people use mindfulness in response to this information that you've put out there?
Yeah, it's, you know, again, I remember talking before, I'm still trying to practice mindfulness, and there's a lot of attempt, like my success waxes and wanes, but maybe that's part of the whole process. And I'm waxing right now, so it's good, but you know, you just don't know. I think, again, it goes back to, for me, and maybe this is too cheesy a comparison, but just being mindful of what's going on out there. Like, you're not alone. This is where things are. This is what's available. And just being aware. Like Terry, your point about tech companies sharing salaries, that transparency thing, I think that's fantastic. I'm not sure I will ever see that in my lifetime in schools, because I know being in schools, like it's so taboo. It's almost like it's like Harry Potter, he who will not be named, right? You can't say the salary. And then, like the dirty little secret is waiting every year to get to Guide Star to see who's making 100,000 plus at schools, So I hope that people will be, I don't want to use mindful again, but like just aware and process that and think about how they can affect their professional journey.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, it's definitely not just schools that make that a secret.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's a lot of talk about, especially about educators, not just marketing people, but educators being underpaid as well. So I
Yeah.
think it's a conversation that's going to continue, and things like what you're doing here are bringing that to the forefront for sure.
Yeah.
And I think being mindful before you approach your boss without getting a raise is probably also something to do, to just kind of have some, don't just rush in there after you read this with the piece of paper and say, but being mindful about how you approach that information and share it.
But I'll jump in. The great piece of advice I got was, don't go in and say, I want $15,000 more dollars. But it can go in and say, here's the survey, here's where I benchmark or whatever. Let's come up with a plan to get me there. Like put the activity back on the person and come up with a plan, as opposed to saying, I want $15,000 more dollars. Because the answer is probably no. Even though you should be paid that, the answer is probably no. So anyways, my 2 cents. Yeah.
That's where mindfulness comes in, I think, for sure.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that factor. And I also say mindfulness when reading the results. So having worked in schools, both large and small, there is often a reason that your salary is not the same as a school down the street. And sometimes it has to do with your tuition prices, the amount of staff you have. There's so many different variables there. It's just an interesting, it's hard to compare, especially with independent schools. Like, apple to apple, right? What's under do you have a direct report that's taking things off your plate? Therefore, it's not this big overall job. There's so many different variables. So I just think mindfulness in terms of that is key. But I do, and I too, Brendan, don't think, I would be very surprised if there's any transparency during my time in schools I mean, I remember working in schools and all the faculty thought that like the admin side was making so much more money and had so many more, like it was like this big faculty versus staff feeling, because there wasn't that transparency, right? And vice versa. Like it's a lot of different things and a lot of different cultural perceptions and everything like that, for sure. I am curious, well, not curious. So I was trying to pull up what you did. We have our questions that we do every episode.
Yeah.
And I was trying to pull out what you said last time, and Tara, maybe you have the notes for this, but I am curious if they've changed since we last spoke to you. So I'm going to kick off our rapid fire questions and see. I'm sure they've changed since 2 years ago, but let's see. Our first one is, if you could put one book as mandatory reading in the high school curriculum, what would it be?
To answer your question, I'll answer it, but Aubrey, I purposely didn't look back. I'll look back later. I'm like, I want to see where I am. That book for me is a book called Smart Brevity, and the subtitle is The Power of Saying More with Less. I don't know if you guys have seen it or know that book. It's I can't remember.
Can you say that again?
It's called Smart Brevity, The Power of Saying More with Less. And it's written by the authors or the founders of, and I can't remember their names, I'm sorry, of started Politico, the website, and then they somehow had a falling out with their partner, went away, and now they're the founders and owners, runners, whatever, managers of Axios. And the idea is, I'm going to butcher this, but like, there's academic writing, which we're all aware of, but that's really only good in the academic space. But like in the real world, we need to change how we write. And it's all around that. I found it. And again, they eat their own dog food. It's not a long book. It's a quick read. So
Yeah.
I definitely recommend that.
I think I have read that. Do you want me to tell you what you recommended last time?
What did I? Yeah, what was it?
Getting Things Done by David Allen.
Oh, huge favorite. Still love it. Yeah. Yeah. Huge favorite.
Awesome. Okay. Next rapid fire question is, what is one app you could not live without?
It's funny how it changes. It ties back into what I just said. So the Axios has an app, and so this is my soapbox for a sec. I think cable news is like a downfall in our society. So like about 2 or 3 years ago, I stopped watching cable news, any of it. Forget what aisle you're on, any of it's all whatever. And my thought is you have to read the news. So the great thing about Axios, I can go every day and read the news, and they follow this outline, which is the most important thing you need to know is the first sentence. The second sentence is why you need to know it or should be aware. And then they have a little thing in the app that says go deeper. So like if I want to read more, I can. And if I don't, I can just keep going and get a sense of current events and staying important. So right now it's Axios. I'm loving that app.
Ooh, that's a new one. I'm guessing that was not your app because you didn't know
No,
about it
no,
before.
it couldn't have been,
So
yeah.
that is so interesting. I mean, it almost takes all the personality out of an article and just says, what do you actually need to know, like with this news and a quick short snippet. So
Yeah.
that's fantastic.
Do you want me to tell you what you said last
yeah.
time?
Yeah. What did I say last time?
You said Headspace and Overcast.
Still use them to this day. Yeah. Headspace is the mindfulness app, and I use Overcast to listen to podcasts. Yeah. That's funny. Glad I'm still using them. Yay.
You're still the same person. Okay. So what are you reading right now?
Well, I'm sure I answered this before. I love to read, and I'm one of these guys that has multiple books going at a time. So I thought I'd give you the fiction and the nonfiction version. So the fiction version is I love spy novels and CIA and killing and all that stuff. So it's a release from the work. So my favorite author is a guy named Mark Dawson, and he has a number of great characters, but Atticus Priest is the character, and it's a series, and book 3 is called The Red Room. So I just picked it up and just started, so I'm loving that. The nonfiction book I just finished was by a guy named Dan Martell, who it's called Buy Back Your Time. And I really do recommend this for you guys as small business owners. It was one of those books that I was reading it. I'm like, oh my gosh, did he write this for me? Oh my gosh, like this. Oh my gosh, I'm going through this now. So it was one of those books, but he also talks about managing people. And I wish I would have had that earlier in my career. Just some great ideas to empower people and lead them or manage them. So those are the 2 I'm working on now.
Thank you. Those are great. I'm putting them on our Goodreads list right after we're done. So that's perfect. Thank you so much, Brendan. It's been great having you back with us. What is one great piece of advice that you can leave us with today?
The piece of advice, and I guess it does tie into mindfulness, but it's rather than practice. We didn't talk about it, but I launched a new podcast, and it's called Leadership Backstory, and I'm doing it with my good buddy Peter Barron, and we're talking to these really cool CEOs and leaders, and it's really kind of outside of the school space. But one thing, as I listened to them, I realized I'm not very good at reflecting. So not just a practice of mindfulness, but giving yourself space and permission to take a breath and think about what you want to do or where you want to go or what that meant. I'm terrible at that. I'm very good at getting stuff done. Like my other book, like that's like I used to think that was a superpower. Like I can create lists and check box and get it done. But if I could give advice to my younger self, it would be give myself more time to think and be intentional about things as opposed to just bam, 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 bam.
Thank you. That is great. Brendan, thanks so much for sharing all of the information that you gathered. Thanks for doing the survey to begin with. I'm sure our listeners are really going to appreciate having a summary here. And where can they find you online? Sorry about that.
No, it's great. It's the easiest place. If they go to SchneiderB.com, which is the main website, they can go, I think it's the second thing down. If they want to download a copy of the survey, it's right there. And then, so SchneiderB.com, and then obviously the MarComSociety.org. So the Markom Society is the other place. But thank you both. This was great.
Inquiry Tracker is the all-in-one CRM solution used by over 250 schools. Easily manage all your inquiries, tours, and open houses. Key instant analytics help you manage and grow a robust pipeline. So end spreadsheets forever.
The smart online application system with powerful document upload is a game changer. No school is too small or too big, and their Fast Start program will get you up and running in no time.
Best of all, the system is designed by K through 12 education, marketing, and admissions professionals. Check out Inquiry Tracker at inquirytracker.net. That's inquiry with an E, tracker.net.
Thanks for joining us on the Mindful School Marketing Podcast.
We'd love it if you pop into iTunes and leave a review, 5-star preferred. Let us know how you like the show. It helps us improve what we're doing and helps others find us too.